This is Straight Talk Live with Yonah Budd on News Talk 1010.
When we come back from break, I'm going to be joined with my friend, Danny Stone. He's an entrepreneur. He's an author. He's a podcast host. He's a coach and a speaker. He's a teacher and a community servant. For more than 15 years, he's been coaching people, helping them to tap into their true people, into the true person that they are, and achieve unbelievable goals that they never thought were possible. He's the author of the best-selling book, You Have the Keys, Now Drive, and another book called New Me. He was on the show with me some time ago talking about that, with 9 other men, talking about how to get the better of yourself when you come from places that may not give you those opportunities. Both of his books are currently being read by inmates at the Toronto detention centers, and they're recommended reads in all of the libraries. His new podcast, The Grind and Gratitude Show. I can't read. The Grind and Gratitude Show has already garnered listeners in 32 countries in less than 5 months. Danny believes that you have something special. You need to find out what it is we want to do and live it out loud, as he say. You can find out more about Danny at his website, iamdannystone.com, and follow him on Instagram at iamdannystone. As soon as we come back from break, I'm going to be joined by Danny, and we're going to talk about how to transition yourself. How do you make that move? And what are the ups and downs and the ins and the outs? He's an expert. I'll be right back. This is Yonah Budd on News Talk 1010. Mr. Danny Stone, how are you this evening, sir?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back on the show, Yonah.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I got to tell you, I get your Instagram, whatever. I get all the updates of the stuff you're doing on a daily basis, and it's just remarkable to see the types of things you're doing, the number of people you're impacting, and just how much energy you have, brother. Like you just seem to like either you got 6 cups of coffee before you do your gig, but otherwise you're just like on fire. And I just suck it up, right? I just want some of that. Anyway, thanks for joining me. So Danny is an expert really at helping people transition their lives, reinvent themselves, so to speak. And I think tonight is, I wanted to make tonight about that. And he's going to stay with us for a couple of segments. And we're going to try to get through how people make those choices. How do you make those changes, right? And I got a bunch of questions for him, and we're going to go offline a little bit and talk about some of the stuff he's got online that I picked away at, something called the 5 Habits. We'll get to that in a bit. But if you want to interact with Danny and I, 416-872-1010, or text us at 71010. If you're thinking about going to business for yourself, or trying a new career, going back to school, maybe doing something like that, you're not sure how do you do it, you're not sure how to jump, how to make that first little step, that leap, if you will, Danny's the guy. He's a coach. He'll help you right through that. You can reach him at iamdannystone.com, just like it sounds, or on social at iamdannystone. So Danny, first question, when did you realize you could, we're going to get to your story in a sec a little bit here, but when did you realize that you could impact people in making their life choices in the way that you do? You just seem to make it fun for people to have this, difficult choice in their life, but when you somehow do it with you, it seems like a lot of fun.
Well, I think that we all have the ability to positively impact other people's lives, whether it's the person that you're talking to at the coffee shop, somebody you pass every day in your building. But I think I kind of realized that, I had an ability to connect with people and help them see things differently, probably at an early age. I used to do a lot of community work in my community, work with a lot of young people. And in doing that work, just seeing how they sort of came to me for advice, or how they were looking at their own lives or their situations differently, that's when I kind of realized that I wanted to be in the people helping business.
And it's been, how many years you've been doing that now?
Wow, about, I would say 25 years.
Wow. You must have started when you were 5 because you look like you're 30. Okay. So here's the next question. I miss you, man. I wish we were in studio, but anyway, we'll do that next time, on the other side of all this nonsense, right? Can anybody really reinvent themselves? Here's a guy working in a bar, maybe a bartender, maybe a server, not that those aren't great careers and great options for people, but can someone from that position sort of reinvent themselves, and is there kind of a limit as to who fits the mold of the kind of people you actually are successful with?
No, I think anybody can reinvent themselves. Think about it. We all have so much knowledge and information and interest. So to limit ourselves to just saying that we can only do one thing, that's not true. People reinvent themselves every single day. I think it's just finding the other thing that you're passionate about or curious about, And, like you were saying earlier, deciding if it's something that you want to pursue and then going down that path to see if it's viable and so on. But anybody can reinvent themselves. Most of us limit ourselves to what we're good at or what we've always done.
Right.
But we can reinvent ourselves. There's so many people I know who are doing so many different things than they were doing even 5 years ago. So it's definitely possible for almost anybody to reinvent themselves.
And is it something that when someone makes that decision to reinvent themselves and to kind of reach for something else, take a step in another direction, people that are doing that, I know we kind of reinvent ourselves, like you said, every day. I think that's great. I think that's a very, very astute comment. But in terms of making that leap when there's a financial risk, perhaps. I mean, one of the thoughts we had here is that, during COVID, obviously, with financial supports from the government and so on, it would appear that it would be like a great time to do that, wouldn't it?
It's a great time to do that. At the beginning of all of this, I decided that I wanted to start reaching out to people more, and I was calling people, and I just made myself more available to have one-on-one conversations with people. And since March, I've had over 220 one-on-one conversations with people, and most of those people were at the point that we're talking about right now. They realized that being home and not being in the office or not being on the job site, that this was a time that they could start thinking about something different. And this is a time that a lot of people started thinking about, maybe not doing what they've always done, maybe starting fresh, starting another career, starting a side hustle, starting a new career path, a business. And you're right. I think people being home, realizing that work doesn't always have to be me at the office, on the job site. The flexibility of being able to do things in the middle of the day or spend more time with their loved ones. I think a lot of people just stopped and realized maybe there is another option for me.
Well, we want to hear from you out there. 416-872-1010 or text us at 71010. If you have questions for Danny about how do you make the transition, how do you make the change, how do you reinvent yourself, you got him right now. So I suggest you hook up and give us a call and let us know what your thoughts are. Danny, you have your career as we understand it today in the bio that I read off the start of the show, the start of our segment together. But your own career, you've gone from some fairly different life choices in terms of what you've done for a living, so to speak. Can you just take us through that a little bit and maybe how you transitioned and, there wasn't or was there a Danny Stone around for you at the time?
Well, mentors definitely played a big role in my life, but I started as a youth outreach worker, working in challenging communities with young people. And I realized from there that I wanted to do more. So I transitioned from that to a career coach working for a nonprofit organization. And again, still doing a lot of work in the community, still working with people around career transitions. And from there, I made the leap into working for a college. And in working for the college, I began managing staff training, doing a lot of career development, people development, coaching. And then from there, I leapt into the professional world of working for a financial company, managing training and coaching and so on. And so I've always kind of been within the same realm, but it's been, in different types of organizations. And then, I just, about 6.5 years ago, I just decided that it was time for me to transition out of working for somebody else and start working for myself. And so I left my corporate job. Yeah, it was a really big jump. I left the corporate job, started my own business, really coaching and teaching and training. And it's been about 6.5 years since I've been doing that.
And I'm no doubt in my mind you do better than just pay the rent. Real quick question, and we don't have to get to that, but I just know you. I can just see the energy, right? So how much, like in terms of the work you've done, you have some actual formal education, I understand too, don't you? Underneath all that, that allowed you to take on those roles.
Yeah, I mean, I went to university. I did about 3 years at university. I didn't graduate with my degree. Right. What I did do was when I was working for the college, I actually took courses and programs for 6 years straight. I ended up getting a master's certificate in human resources, my coaching certificate. Along the way, I just continued. I mean, I've taken courses for probably 8 years straight. And then worked with a lot of mentors and coaches as well. See, the thing about education that people have to understand is we talk a lot about formal education, which is, post-secondary education. But finding a mentor or volunteering and building your skills up in a certain area is education as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that we have to kind of remind ourselves and remember. If you were to work with a mentor who's been doing what they've been doing for 10 or 15 years, and they took you under their wing for a year or two, that's education. You would learn a lot.
So before we go to break here, last question. We got about 45 seconds. Does education play a big role in successfully transitioning? Like, I mean, is that a big either an obstacle or a positive in terms of people when they have to make that jump? How much does education play in that transition?
It all depends on what you're transitioning into, right? If I'm going to become a doctor, obviously I need an education. Right. If I'm going to become a coach, maybe I just need a course to teach me the techniques, but I already have the stories and the lessons. So it really depends on what you're transitioning into.
When we come back from break, we're going to talk to Danny about one of his books called You Have the Keys Now, Drive, and we're going to talk a little bit about the 5 habits. So as soon as we come back from break, be back with me and my good friend Danny and Tony in the studio, who's out there pushing all the buttons, making sure it all goes smoothly. See you in just a minute. This is Yonah Budd on News Talk 1010. You're here with Yonah Budd here and Danny Stone. Danny, one of Danny's books here, You Have the Keys Now, Drive. I didn't get a chance to get that book, and I'm going to. The 5 habits. You talk about these 5 habits to personal change. They're essential habits you must incorporate into your life to live a fully charged life. So the first habit is habit 1, establish a morning ritual. You want to kind of take us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I think this is, if you look at highly successful people, they all start their mornings with a morning ritual. And, one of the things that you have control over is how you start your day, because the minute that you leave your house, you have no control over it. So, the morning ritual is really about you getting more focused, getting clear about what it is that you want to happen for the day, creating more peace and calm in your life, and really to start to focus on what you're trying to create for yourself and your family.
Number 2 is you have to develop a bedtime routine. Is that, it seems pretty, kind of stuff kind of seems pretty obvious, but I guess not so, eh?
Well, it does seem obvious, but think about it. How many nights have you tossed and turned because you couldn't get to sleep because something was on your mind? Right.
Tons.
And so a bedtime routine is you programming your mind to begin to shut down, whether it's journaling your thoughts of what happened during the day, or another thing that we should be doing is writing out the 1 or 2 things that you want to achieve the next day so that your mind can rest, right? Turning off electronics 15 to 30 minutes before. So it's really preparing yourself to sleep so that you can rest and recharge yourself.
Okay, it works for me. I'm going to try that. And is this something you actually coach people through? I mean, people.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, we absolutely talk about all of these things. Yes.
How do you? I have a message here from somebody that says, "How do you build a bedtime routine though when you're actually working late shift and trying to make it all work, right?"
Well, you schedule around whatever time you go to sleep, right? So, whatever your sleep time is, you schedule something around that, even if it's you work the night shift and you get home at 6 or 7 in the morning, then have a routine that kind of winds you down to prepare to sleep.
The third habit you share here is getting going on your goals. What's meant by that?
Well, we all have goals and we all talk about the things that we want to achieve, but it's actually taking action. What are you doing every single day? Like if you could only do one thing towards your biggest goal, what would that thing be? And make sure that you try to achieve that every single day, right? For so many of us, we have so many things to do that this list just becomes so long. So just narrow it down to one thing. If I can only do one thing towards my biggest goal today, what would that be?
It's interesting when we're dealing with people in recovery, when I'm dealing with my patients who are in recovery coming out the other side, we tell them not to set any more goals than 3 a day. So instead of, the first one needs to be get up clean and sober and happy, right? And it depends on the work you're doing, I suppose. But in my work, get up clean and sober and happy. That's got to be the first thing you want to accomplish every day you wake up. And then everything, and the other two are not so difficult. The fourth habit here is also one that's obvious, but in my work as well as yours, we're often trying to explain to people that this is an important part of life, not just for those that want to look good in a T-shirt. Habit 4, mind your fitness, and then /spirit.
Yeah, Yonah, you know this. I mean, our health and our mindset and our spiritual wellness is so important. And so many of us, we wake up, we hit snooze 10 times because we're not looking forward to going to that job or starting our day. And we really need to mind our fitness. Like, without your health and your wellness, you have nothing. And I think for most of us, we just don't make a conscious effort to eat better, to exercise, to meditate, to take time out, to do the things that bring us joy and peace and calm in our lives. And we really have to make a conscious effort to do that because we're doing so many things and taking care of so many other people that we forget to take care of ourselves.
Amazing. Go back to some of so those are the 5 points. I'm really excited. I got to get that book and get through it because I love
4. I think we missed one.
Did we miss number 5? What was number 5? Was
be of service to others.
Be of service to others. That's the one I missed. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Be of service to others. That's one that most people don't even think about.
Right. And I think we're most of us are here searching for more meaning and more purpose, or even when you're feeling stuck or you're unhappy or you're not feeling good about yourself, what's one thing that always makes us feel good? It's helping someone else, right? So I think that's something that we should make a conscious effort to do more.
What percentage of your students actually do well, or what's your success rate? I guess is people often ask me, what my success rate is in treatment or at the farm or in my private practice. Do you keep track of that kind of stuff?
I don't. And I mean, I have numbers of people that I've coached, and I keep in touch with a lot of them. But coaching is very different, and this too, Yonah.
Yeah.
It's not concrete because people come sometimes and they'll say, I'm having a challenge with my career. And once you get into it, it has nothing to do with their career. It could be their mindset. It could be their fitness. It could be, other things. And so to put a concrete thing to put some kind of concrete numbers on is very challenging. Now, everybody who's come through coaching have realized things about themselves that maybe they had locked away or maybe they didn't even realize. And I think that is a win for a lot of people because awareness about where you are and what you're really trying to create in your life is so important.
What do you think are the major obstacles to someone successfully trying to reinvent or change their life? What seem to be the sort of top 3 or 4 common obstacles if you can do that?
Well, the first thing is people just don't know what they want. It's not authentic. Most of us want what we see other people have, right? I started a business many years ago. It was a T-shirt business because somebody else had a T-shirt business. It wasn't what I wanted. And so that's the first thing is to understand what is it that you really want? What do you want? What type of career do you want? What type of business do you want to start for you? Not because you see other people have it. So I think that's the biggest challenge is around clarity about what it is that you really want, what type of career, what type of business you want. I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is really about your mindset. Many of us have this fixed mindset. And that fixed mindset says you can only do what you're doing, right? And if you try to step outside of that, even if you have a little bit of progress, sometimes we slide back into doing what we've always done because our mind tells us that it's uncomfortable and you're not going to be successful. So we really have to quiet that fixed mind and put ourselves out there, explore new things, reward our success along the way, and use that as encouragement for us to keep going.
Do you have a story that you can share with us just so we get an idea? I'm interested I'd love to live the world through you a little bit. Maybe an extreme situation where someone, came and, wanted to alter their lives, make that transition. And, it was perhaps a longer haul or a more difficult challenge. And it was something you really stuck with. Is there a sort of a case story that you might want to share a little bit, if you have, 2-3 minutes worth?
Yeah, I definitely do. I've worked with lots of clients, and this one particular client, he always shares the story, and he tells me to share it with others. So one of my clients about 4 years ago, he was an IT professional working in information technology. He had been a really high performer. He's making a lot of money, but he just wasn't enjoying the work. And he thought that if he could just get a career bump and become the manager of his department, maybe that's what would make him happier. And so he was just trying to figure things out. He came to me, he said, Danny, I think I just need a change within the same career field, something else different in information technology. But he wasn't happy. He was overweight. His relationship was suffering. He was having a lot of different challenges in his area, of different areas in his life. And he thought if he could just transition into another career in information technology, that would solve a lot of his problems. And what we realized was the first thing he had to do was take control of his health, his spirituality, his mindset. He was about 75 pounds overweight. And so that's what he did. He made the commitment to eating right, getting healthy. He ended up losing about, I think it was 57 pounds.
Wow.
And what that did was it was amazing because it gave him more clarity about his life. He realized that he no longer wanted to be in information technology. He didn't want to work in a corporation whatsoever. He decided he wanted to be a teacher, quit his job, ended up going to teachers college for 2 years, and became a teacher at 52 years old.
Wow. That's a great story. That's an amazing story. What words of encouragement do you have for people that feel like they're stuck and they just, they're listening to us perhaps and they're saying to themselves, yeah, but that's easy for that guy. And, maybe he didn't have what my situation is and he doesn't understand what it's like to kind of live in my shoes, so to speak. What do you tell people who are, kind of stuck in the rut, not feeling a lot of hope around change?
Well, the first thing, I think a lot of people feel that way because people always tell you all you got to do is believe in yourself. Just believe in yourself and get out there and start. And that's a lie. It's one of the biggest lies we've ever been told. That's not true. What is true is progress equals belief. Progress equals belief. So if that's the case, you just have to get started. And as you get a little bit of momentum, that'll carry you forward to the next day and the next day and the next day. So many of us think that we have to know the whole plan before we get started. If you've been called to do something, if you've constantly been thinking about something, then explore it. Find out what it is. Take action on it. Do your research. Make a phone call. Connect with somebody. Just get started. And I think that's the thing for so many people. It's just getting started that's the most difficult thing. Once you get started and you get a little bit of momentum, then you start to think that maybe this is possible. And you go from thinking this is impossible to possible to doing it. And the other thing is to get around positive people. Who's in your network?
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Who are the people? Like, do you have a coach? Do you have friends or family members that encourage you, that hold you accountable? If you don't, seek out mentors. Go to some of these online groups and find people who are trying to do what you're trying to do in terms of moving your life forward. And get encouragement from them. Because sometimes I know we're around so many negative people that even if we think about trying something different, they pull us back. So it's really important to find very positive people, mentors, role models, people that you trust.
If you're thinking about making these changes, get a hold of him, IamDannyStone.com or on social at IamDannyStone. Real quick, we got about 45 seconds. Timeline to success. And we talking about months, years? I mean, for someone to transition out of one way of life to another, I guess, or does it depend on how vast, I guess, the change might be or how great the change might be? Is there a timeline? Is it usually something you're committing a couple of years to or months, or what do you think?
It really depends on what you're doing. I mean, I know people who decided that they wanted to become a speaker, and within 6 weeks later, they're speaking on stages, making thousands of dollars. So it really depends on your skill set, what you're trying to do. There's so many factors involved. But the one thing that is consistent is you can start today. That's the thing that amazing. I know for sure.
That's amazing. Danny Stone, my good friend, we're going to have you back again and again. It's always great to have you. I really appreciate your sharing, and I hope you and your family are all well. And great success, buddy, and keep doing what you're doing, because I love it. I'm sure other people do too. And without people like you, where would we be? Anyway, thank you again. We're going to be back from break here in just a minute. This is Yonah Budd on News Talk 1010.